A Farewell to Arms by Ernest Hemingway. Ernest Miller Hemingway was raised in Oak Park in 1899. He has been a literary symbol of the 20th century as he succeeded in breaking with the pastoralistic tradition by influencing whole generations and leading to the development of the 20th century novel. Basically, his work's characters have a stoic nature and they are asked to adopt a gracious attitude in order to deal with uncomfortable situations. Moreover, his style is basic. In that period, Hemingway gathered an expert community of American people known as Lost Generation in Paris. This group was composed of people who became authors during the First World War. The previous year, he started to cooperate with the Toronto Star as new correspondent and special envoy, traveling to Constantinople in order to follow the war between Turkey and Greece. The Christians' evacuation from Thrace inspired the retreat of A Farewell to Arms. The novel, published in 1929, tells about a love story and war before, during, and after the defeat of Caporetto. Its publication was forbidden until 1945 because it could undermine the fascist armed forces as it described Italy's defeat and the character's secession in 1917. Frederick Henry is a young American volunteer who came to Italy to take part to the First World War. He is a second lieutenant in charge of an ambulance section carrying the wounded people from the front to the nearest field hospital. There, he understands war is less fascinating than he thought. In 1917, he is admitted to the Polyclinic of Milan, where he meets an English nurse named Catherine Barclay. Initially, they just have a one-night stand, so much that Frederick lied about his feelings only to reach his mere goal. While Catherine was still traumatized for having lost his fiancé during the war the previous year. Soon, their relationship will become intense and passionate. When the defeat of Caporetto happens, Frederick finds himself among some retreating soldiers so that he falls onto the river and succeeds in surviving. Once escaped death, Frederick flees from Italy with Catherine, going to Switzerland. There, the woman gives birth to her child and dies. Unfortunately, the young man is deprived of an happy ending, tackling the pain in loneliness. The chosen version of A Farewell to Arms dates to 1957 and it is a 1932 Frank Borzaghi's remake. Among actors we find Vittorio De Sica as Major Rinaldi and Alberto Sordi as Priest Galli, while the main characters are Rock Hudson as Frederick Henry and Jennifer Jones as Catherine Barclay. Definitively, the first perceptible difference between the written work and the movie is the lack of detailed descriptions, typical of the author, in the film production. Actually, Hemingway focuses the first and second chapters on the description of the past seasons, from summer to winter. It does not happen in the movie. Moreover, in the novel, Major Rinaldi is described as Frederick's contemporary, while in the movie he is anything but a young fellow. Equally, in the movie, the main character does not manage an ambulance section, carrying the wounded people to the nearest field hospital as explained in the book. Mainly, these are differences related to the author's style. What really changes is the end. In the novel, Frederick loses his wife, going on just with his son, who is painfully accepted as is seen as the reason of Catherine's death, while in the movie, the young man loses both his wife and son. Hemingway wrote this novel in order to narrate his personal love and war experience lived in 1918. Therefore, it is possible to assert that the first steady theme is the autobiographical detail with respect to the recruitment in the Italian army as volunteer of the USA Red Cross, the falling in love with an English nurse, as well as the war background. The latter forces him to cope with that every day, as happens with the sad and devastating scenario of the death of Caporetto. Another theme is the novel background, the First World War. The book was illegally translated by Fernanda Pivano in Italy in 1943. She was a great friend of the novelist as well as journalist and translator too, that was arrested because of her initiative. The brave woman translated the title both as a farewell to arms and a farewell to the arms of the beloved woman, as in English arms has a double meaning. The novel was not published until 1948, only after the Second World War, because it could damage the fascist regime, Hemingway's enemy. Everyone is aware of the novelist's propensity towards the left wing, towards communism, until he went to the Iberian Peninsula. When the Spanish Civil War began, Hemingway understood communists were bad too, so denounced them. What was the consequence of this attitude? They became his enemies. It did not pose a problem to the writer who revolutionized the 20th century novel because he supported values like the anti-militarism, hating any kind of violence. Usually, Hemingway speaks about death in contrast with love, life's fleetingness, and the frailty of man. Actually, human being can enjoy few calm moments in his life as well as the worldly ones. For example, love between Frederick and Catherine, identified as a calm moment, is precarious because once they arrived in Switzerland, the woman died because of the birth. On the other hand, the young man who has to face Carrie's loss in loneliness reminds to the theme of the man's frailty, who is powerless in front of the life's difficulties. Even more so in the foreword, Hemingway said that no happy ending did not make him unhappy insofar aware of a tragic life. The sensory perception is what distinguishes Hemingway from the other 20th century writers. His sensory perception reaches the reader in a plain and simple way, allowing at the same time a thoughtful and detailed investigation, scratching the surface. Therefore, both the general reader and the scholar are interested. I chose this book, or better Hemingway, both because I appreciate his way to speak to the reader by using short sentences full of adjectives and above all his sensitivity. As it is an autobiographical novel, I noticed how he could narrate his heartbreaking experiences in an ongoing struggle with life's sorrows. The struggle is rightly represented by the acceptance of grief against whom he has a double attitude. On one hand, undergoes it, while on the other hand, he tries to calm down it by really appreciating the few calm moments the human being can enjoy.